Today, we are going to talk about information privacy. The context that we are trying to highlight are personal information. Back in the days, personal information are stored physically in files and folders. As the modern technology grows, same thing happen to storing information. People nowadays prefer to store personal information virtually as it requires less time and energy to do so. A few examples of personal data are medical records, financial data, political preferences, browser history, and family details. So, what is privacy? Privacy is limiting the accessibility of private information to unauthorized individuals. As the technology grows, the vulnerability of users' personal information and privacy are increasing, and therefore exists the term privacy threats.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Haris bin Mustafa Burns, matric number 1713981. So, I will be talking about 5 of the biggest threats to information privacy. But first, before that, what does threats to information privacy mean? It is something that can endanger someone's state of privacy, whether it be online or in real life. So this can be very dangerous for people. The first of the biggest threats is vulnerabilities in web applications. A single vulnerability can cause a major data breach. This is what happened to the big company named Equifax. A single vulnerability that could have easily been patched before that had been exploited by hackers just merely few months after that. This caused 143 million people to have their information privacy breached. This unfortunate situation could have easily been averted if the company follows some simple procedural steps in protecting their information privacy. Now, on to the second of the biggest threats to information privacy, which are insiders or poorly trained employees. Data exposure on the operator side can either be caused intentionally by malicious insiders or even unintentionally by a mistake done by employees. Even so, the end result is still the same, which is a large breach or even leaked records. However, an intentionally done exposure by an insider can cause even greater damage because they can choose which data they want to expose. So this can bring bigger harm to the company. Biggest threat number 3 would be lacking breach response. Even with the best security controls, incidents leading to leaks are still a possibility. So the point here is not making sure that every incident is prevented, but being prepared to provide a swift response to minimize the impact of unforeseen situations. Now, on to biggest privacy threat number 4, which is personal data sharing. To put it simply, in this day and age, data is now considered a currency, and it is quite common for companies to share it among third parties for several reasons. These reasons can range from enabling simple website widgets to monetary compensation or even political schemes. The most notorious recent example would be the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal, where data from over 50 million Facebook users was leaked to Cambridge Analytica so they could build models and both predict and influence individual choices on the political field. And last but not least, the 5th biggest information privacy threat is transferring data over insecure channels. Personal data that are being transmitted over insecure protocols can easily be captured by an unauthorized third party. So it is imperative that secure protocols are enforced in order to avoid breaches in the data being transmitted. So now that we have covered all 5 of the biggest threats of information privacy, we will now proceed to the steps to mitigate them.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We talk about the step on mitigation privacy information violation. So there are certain steps that we can take to contain the incident that happen with our data that have been breached. There are 4 steps that I know that can contain the data breach. For the first step, if privacy violation occurs, is to organize a response team. In this team, we should include the forensic, legal, IT, HR, communication, staff, and management expert. Okay, what does this team do? Okay, this team will, will be in charge in dealing with the incident aftermath in all aspects. Second step is securing the physical area. Securing the physical area as well as systems. Equipment should be taken offline or be replaced depending on the situation. Access to our legal key camera should be frozen and monitored as necessary. And password and the access code for authorized user should be updated. Third step is check online website and online resource. Any misplaced information should be removed from the public resource. Internet search engine can catch information, so you should contact them and ask them to make sure they do not archive their personal information. Other websites should be contacted also if they should they remove the personal information that they gain from the compromised site. Okay, for the fourth step is to remove the vulnerability. Okay, when identify the vulnerability, consider that it originates from the third-party provider. Verify which data, application, and system that were compromised. Prior to taking action, and determine the number of individuals affected.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'll be explaining about the information privacy law. So the right to privacy as a fundamental human right is recognized by the laws of most countries as an underlying value to be safeguarded. Whether the country's laws differ in the manner that is right is upheld. In the countries that follow the English common law, the courts are unwilling to formulate a general principle of invasion of privacy. Instead, they would rely on various case laws and statutes to uphold the privacy right of a person. In Malaysia, the courts are generally unwilling to accept that there is a general principle of invasion privacy. However, there have been occasions where the courts did find that a person's privacy had been intruded, especially where there is a case for breach of confidence. So, what are the steps should be taken by the netizen if there are violations in privacy law? So, there are various laws that a person can rely on to protect his privacy. For example, if there is a pre-existing relationship between the victim and the perpetrator or someone that are doing the harmful act, the perpetrator, by divulging certain private information about the victim, may be liable for breach of confidence. If another person is making baseless accusations against you or to a third party, you may also have an action in defamation. Misuse of another person's personal details may also be a criminal offense in Malaysia under a new piece of legislation, uh, which is the Personal Data Protection Act, uh, which is PDPA. So, what is a PDPA doing for a netizen? So, PDPA is an act that protects personal data from being misused. Personal data is defined as any information collected or processed in connection to a commercial transaction by any equipment operating automatically, which is capable of identifying a person, which is a data subject. So it includes the information such as a name, address, identification, card passport or email address, telephone numbers, and also a banking details. So, in a nutshell, netizen can rely on the PDPA Act in order to protect their privacy.
In conclusion, users have to play their role in keeping personal information to themselves by being aware of the current threats, taking up and practice the latest prevention steps, and being aware of the related laws written. My name is Salim Kirawan, and thank you very much.